Now we're going to figure out how to write an equation in vertex form. So in order to do that, we're actually going to need the width coefficient, which is called a. So we're going to get those two together here. The way you figure out how wide your parabola is, what a is you go from your vertex and you go over one full unit and you see how far up or down you go. So if you go over one every single time, and then you say how far up did I go, and in this case I went up 1. This is going to be a. So the amount you go up or the amount you go down after you go over 1 unit from your vertex, that is a. So in this case, a, the width coefficient, is 1. Now to write the equation in vertex form, what we need to do is we need to use a form that looks a little something like this, and you're going to want to write this probably over in the margin on the side here. So the equation in vertex form is to say that y equals a, and we'll use that a that we found earlier, and then in parentheses x minus x from the vertex, so I'm going to put a little v down there, so x minus x from the vertex squared plus y from the vertex. And I'll show you what that means. So let's go ahead and look at our a value here. So if I were to start writing this, the only things that stay literally the same, I have a y and an x. Those I actually stay the character y and the character x when I write out my formula. The rest of these turn into numbers. So if I'm writing this out, my equation in vertex form, y equals, and that a is going to become a number, and it's going to be the number 1. And then I see that I have x minus my x for my vertex. So x minus, and what was the x for my vertex? Up here, I had a 1. So I'm going to write in x minus 1. I have to square that, and then it says I need to add the y from my vertex, and the y from my vertex up here is -1, so plus a -1 or minus 1. And that's how you write that in vertex form. It's a little bit tricky to get used to. Getting that a is probably the hardest part. The rest of it you kind of just have to remember that pattern. So let's try it to another one. Let's look at this graph down here. We have to figure out our a. And to do that, we start at our vertex and we go over 1, and then we see what happens. In this case, we go down, and it looks like we don't go down a full unit. We go down about a half a unit. So it looks like we went over 1 and down, or -1/2. So in this case, our a value is going to be -1/2. What the a value tells me is which direction am I going, up or down, and it also tells me how fast am I doing it. Am I going down really fast? Am I going down really gradual, or something in between? So -1/2 is a fairly gradual downward curve. So going back to the format that we used above, y equals, so I'll write y equals, it says y equals a, so that's going to be my -1/2. So y equals -1/2 times x, I literally write x, minus my x coordinate, which in this case up here is 0. So x minus 0, I square that, and then I need to add on the y coordinate, and the y coordinate of my vertex up here again is 0, so plus 0. If you're like, oh man, I feel like that can clean up and not be so messy, you're right, it can. You could write this as -1/2 x squared, because x minus 0 is just x, plus 0 doesn't do anything to the end, so you could clean that up to -1/2 x squared if you would like.